time has come again within Call of Duty World War II in which we have some routine updates to the game, and this time around it was something that a lot of people are a little bit polarized on. Some people are really for these and some people are really against these changes that we ended up getting today. But a little backstory for this, we ended up getting a tweet from Michael Condrey saying yesterday that we'd be getting some of these changes, detailing a large majority of them in the tweet itself. And so with this update, a lot of what he mentioned was the bulk of this update. So there's not all that much necessarily added on, but still some key changes that you will definitely notice in game nonetheless. So in this video, I want to take a look at these 7 largest things to come out of this most recent update from December 21st today in Call of Duty World War II. So that said, we're gonna be taking a look at these, breaking them down, what it means for the gameplay itself, what it means for you as the player, and other things alike. Now, before we jump into it, it is something that I want to mention, something that has been a little bit of an update, a little bit of a change that did not come from this little playlist update that went live earlier today. But if you guys are a fan of ranked play, 2 days ago we ended up getting a slight adjustment here, to which I did not actually cover it on the channel, but it is something that was changed around. Previously, ranked play was only for solos, and a lot of people really weren't too pleased about that and wanted to play with their friends. Sledgehammer addressed this, saying that they're going to be rolling out team and group matchmaking in a little bit of time at this point in time, to which we ended up 2 days ago, once again, getting that update that we were looking for. Right now, it's currently not the full team that you can end up teaming with, but you can end up going in with a duo. A 2-person party can be made for matchmaking in ranked play now. So with that said, if you have a duo, hop on in, but if you have a squad, it's going to be a little bit more time, but hopefully not all that long. They still have not put an ETA on that, but hopefully it's something that once again is sorted out so that parties can join up rather soon. But nonetheless, let's jump into today's updates, the things that are relevant right now. As mentioned, there are 7 key portions that I want to talk about. And the first one, we're going to start with 2 things that are in the headquarters specific. And the first one being something that I'm sure a lot of you guys may have even experienced for yourself because it was a widespread problem. This dealing with the social rank and specifically the rewards that were granted for hitting each new specific rank. So whether that be a weapon variant, a calling card, an emote, some supply drops, armory credits, whatever it may be that you are still progressing up through your social score rank, that's something in which that beforehand a lot of these rewards were bugging out and not being rewarded to players. So this was addressed in this playlist update, to which that going forward should not be an issue whatsoever, and hopefully it's something that is not lost, but I haven't really heard any say for or against if those things that were stockpiled in the back end while you couldn't actually get them on the surface. I wouldn't imagine they'd be lost, but I guess stranger things have happened. I'm really hoping that that's not the case though. So if you guys have had this issue with some of your social score not giving you the rewards you're supposed to be getting, check to see if you ended up getting them at this point. But moving forward, there should not be any issues whatsoever. Now, that's gonna lead us over into the second thing that I wanna talk about here, once again in the headquarters, this dealing more specifically with Major Howard's department, the orders. There were a couple of orders as of recently that, as a part of the Winter Siege event, were added into the rotation, and a couple of them just did not work. Plain out, did not track at all. And it was something that people were really wanting to get their supply drops, their armory credits, whatever it may be for that specific day. And I believe some of these were even winter specific ones, so you got a winter supply drop out of it. But they were not tracking whatsoever. Those being the confirmed killer and the confirmed deniers were 2 of the big targets here at this. And so they're pretty self-explanatory. Confirmed killer, it was X amount of confirms and X amount of denies. I can't remember off the top of my head how many there actually were, but these just would not track whatsoever. You could play for hours on end only going for confirms or denies, but you still would not have one single one counted towards that order completion. Now, this was addressed, and whether or not it's something that stays in that rotation or if it's something that we end up seeing a lot more often, or if it addresses some of the other ones some people have had issues with, that's something we don't know, but it is something that was addressed for these 2 in particular, in which they hopefully have been fixed up now and won't have any issues whatsoever. The third thing deals with some SMG buffs within World War II, something that a lot of people may or may not be once again conflicted on how they feel with this, but the 2 SMGs in question that ended up getting some adjustments and some fine tuning was the MP40 and the M1928, or the Thompson. Both of those got fire rate buffs. Now the MP40 personally I always enjoyed, but I was a bit skeptical skeptical on it just because of some of the different attributes of it, but right now it works like magic. The same thing can be said for the Thompson as well, as that is now just a powerhouse. Now, of course, these only adjusted the fire rates. The damages themselves didn't actually statistically make the weapon better in the damage aspect because of how things end up rolling out. The more bullets you can end up pumping into an enemy, of course, the better chance you have at killing them faster. So it makes these a little bit more on the forefronts of the weapons that are probably in the spotlight at the moment, and you may be running across quite a few of them in your games in the next upcoming days to weeks. The next thing up on the list is a shotgun buff. Now, this was one that we were told was coming for a while, but honestly, I'm a little surprised at it because I kind of thought it was an across-the-board thing coming to all of the shotguns or individually tailored buffs coming to shotguns, but the only thing that was changed in this most recent update is the combat shotgun. That is the only thing that got a buff out of all of the shotguns within World War II. No toggle action buff, no double barrel buff that is very desperately needed in my opinion because both those weapons are pea shooters if you end up trying to go for challenges, but the combat shotgun was the only one that was buffed, to which that buffed the damage range more so than anything else. So whereas the damage does not change at all, the drop off for how much damage you inflict allows the combat shotgun to range players a little bit further than previously. So I'm intrigued to see if there's gonna be something that rolls out to the other shotguns at some point in time in the very near future, or if this was the long-awaited shotgun buff that was talked about for a while. I'm just genuinely curious. I don't really use shotguns all that much, but from something that has been mentioned for quite some time now, it seems like this one was kind of underwhelming in that sense. But next up is the LMG buffs, to which there's two parts here with this one. Firstly, across the board, there was a global movement speed buff, to which LMGs are very, very immobile weapons in World War II, and of course that makes sense in a practical standpoint. They're the largest weapons, they are the heaviest weapons, and thus you wouldn't ever see anybody in a real war end up running across a battlefield with an LMG trying to spray and pray somebody as they would maybe with an SMG or a smaller weapon of some sorts. And of course, bad examples perhaps, but you get the point here. It's something that's not necessarily meant to be running around with. But the movement speed itself was buffed, so it is a quicker movement now with LMGs. And then also there were individual buffs to the recoil for the MG and the Lewis, to which you can end up finding the subsequent changes to the recoil patterns and the amount of kick that you end up having when holding down that trigger. The next thing on the list is one that probably is the biggest one that a lot of people are really taking out of this update, and one that's creating the most buzz and the most noise. That being a nerf to the FG42. Pretty much everybody's favorite rifle, it seems like, when I come into contact with players in multiplayer lobbies at this point in time. I feel like everybody runs this, but it was something that had two individual nerfs and two large ones at that to it with this update. That being firstly a fire rate nerf and a recoil increase that gave much more kick than before. So whereas once again it kind of nullifies some of the properties that made this the air quote OP weapon in multiplayer at this point, it was something that these now have been tamed a little bit more and might not necessarily put this at your #1 spot in the rifle category now. The fire rate seems to have had like a 15% decrease or so on this, and of course the recoil has had that similar adjustment once again, to which I guess it really comes down to play preference, how you feel this works out compared to everything else. But definitely probably one of the biggest substantial changes here out of this smallish update in World War II for today. Probably took a lot of people by surprise by how much it was changed, but nonetheless, it's gonna lead us into the last thing that I wanna talk about. The seventh thing up on this list deals with a little bit of a pistol nerf, that being to the machine pistol. Once again, a very prominent piece of some gameplay as of recently. The damage for this statistically has been at its base dropped down, so it's not as powerful. That was something in which, once again, this kind of comes back to a more of a competitive update with this one, because the FG and the machine pistol were two of the most used weapons at CWL Dallas. So take that how you will. It's one that of course is kind of weird. I personally don't necessarily get affected by a large portion of these updates that we ended up having, but some of the stuff that I do use does change the meta a little bit with this update that went live today. But that said, that's 7 of the most important things, once again, out of this update. Not all that many huge things compared to it, and really when you take a look at the full listing, which I'll leave the link in the description below if you guys want to check it out, this is actually the bulk of it. So there wasn't any huge hefty update or anything like that compared to recent changes in which there's a lot of stuff that is addressed on the technical end, but wanted to keep you guys in the loop nonetheless. So that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section section down below. Do you think that this one was a much needed update? Do you think that not enough stuff was updated? Do you think more than enough stuff was updated? Do you think it was overkill? Whatever it may be, let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys drop a like down below. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, we're on that road to 100,000 subscribers, so we're so close. And of course, if you guys are interested in World War II in any way, shape, or form, tips, tricks, best class setups, news, information, breakdowns, leaks, all that kind of stuff, we got you covered here up on the channel. So if any of it interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube. I practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that said and out of the way, hope you guys had a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.